Let's bring into the stream Rajamannar. He is the Chief Marketing Communications Officer and President of the Healthcare Business at Mastercard. Thank you for joining us today, Raja. And one of the things that you want to talk about, that we want to talk about with you, is it's not only, brand identity is good, but we always have this discussion, B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer. But you're making the point and the emphasis on focus on people. What does that mean?
So first and foremost, whether you're in a B2C context or in a B2B context, at least in our lifetimes, we will only be dealing with people. Machines will not be running the companies by itself, right? And people, irrespective of the context that they are in, they are emotional, thinking, feeling beings. So when you're talking of marketing, it's not just about rational, logical decision making. There is a lot of emotional aspect to decision making. It's driven by feelings and emotions. So in marketing, what you're trying to do is you're not just talking about how great your product is, but you're actually trying to connect with something deeper from the person's point of view, irrespective of whether the person is in a B2B context or in a B2C context. The myth typically is if you're in a B2B context, everything is logical and rational, but that is a myth.
Raja, another thing that businesses certainly have to keep in mind is they need to anticipate to stay relevant. So what are your recommendations just on the best ways to do that?
So in terms of relevance, particularly first and foremost, it's all driven by, on the one hand, the consumers or the end customers and their needs on the one hand. And on the second, the context in which they're operating in. If they're individuals, what kind of a lifestyle they're living with. And if they are businesses, what kind of environment that they are in. The whole idea is for marketers to understand those very deeply. The needs on the one hand, the context on the other hand, and understand the psychological and the emotional dynamics behind. And when you connect the dots of these, that's when you come through as a holistic marketer and somebody who is actually very appealing to that consumer. Because today, if you look at any of the products and services, there is practically parity. And the differentiation is brought not by product functionalities or design, but it is actually going to be through emotions and feelings. So that's how you need to try and sustain the relevance to their existing context. So one small thing, for example, if there is something happening culturally that's very volatile, or that's something which is positive or negative, whichever way it is, it's very critical for brands to be in tune with it so they don't come tone deaf to their customers and consumers on the one hand. And at the same time, they're not just joining the bandwagon to talk about something which is the current hot topic, but they are actually representing themselves very authentically. The voice of the brand comes through clearly, right, consistently, and in a committed fashion.
There was at Saatchi & Saatchi, decades ago, Kevin Roberts, he wrote the book Love Marks, which talked about, the best relationship in marketing is the consumer who loves the product. And we actually build those emotional connections. How do it, at a Mastercard, how do you do that? How do you get me to love a piece of plastic?
See, we have been doing it very successfully. That's the whole idea. It's not about your love for plastic that we are focusing on, but it is the things that you care about, that you love, that you are passionate about. And we enable you to experience your passions in a truly unique fashion. We call it priceless, right? It's about curating and creating experiences that money cannot buy, but you can get it only with your Mastercard or through your Mastercard. And that's the whole basis of our Priceless campaign, which is now successfully running in its 24th year. And the interesting thing is, this is not just about soft emotions and fluffy sentiments. This is actually about tangible movement of the business, the brand valuation, and how it drives and fuels the business. So today we are a top 10 brand globally as measured by Brand Z, or we are one of the fastest growing brands across all categories as measured by Interbrand. So whichever you study, you take, the strategy of bringing to life the connection between consumers and their passions really works. And that's what we are striving to do day in and day out.
Raja, what would you say is the biggest disruptor right now in the marketing industry, if you had to pick out just one thing?
Artificial intelligence, by far. It's across the entire life cycle of marketing, all the way from consumer insights to product development, to testing the concepts, to doing the data analytics, of course, and to create items, including RFP responses or creating new advertisements. It's all happening today in AI, and it does at a fraction of the cost and in a fraction of time, in a matter of minutes. So the speed with which things become, it's almost real time that you can operate in, and the cost efficiencies that you get, and the democratization that happens in the field wherein you don't have to be a gigantic company to be able to use AI, but even a small company can effectively use AI because they can pay for it as they go without any capital investment. The combination of all these is what AI is. And that is going to be humongously disruptive and hugely enabling. On the one hand, if you know how to use it, you'll be the champion and you'll be successful and you'll thrive. And the absence of that, you'll become obsolete and irrelevant extremely quickly.
We appreciate your being here. Rajamannar is the Chief Marketing Communications Officer and the President of the Healthcare Business at Mastercard. Thank you so much for joining us.